Greetings, greetings, everyone. It is, yes, it's that Tuesday, that time on Tuesday. Linda Talaferro, Being Brown at Work Live. And you guys know this, my favorite time of the week. I just so enjoy talking about these critical subjects, providing these nuggets of wisdom from these fabulous women that I have just been so blessed to meet and become part of their network and they're part of mine. And we've got another one for you tonight. And we don't want to delay because she's going to share. I mean, I was just so intrigued with the terminology of ecosystem. So you're going to love this. So we're just going to jump right in. So, welcome everyone. I'd love to introduce to you Amelia Roberts. Amelia Roberts is a digital native and has long enjoyed using technology and social media to spread helpful information and connecting friends with resources they need. She officially became a practitioner of online marketing 12 years ago as a role as a virtual assistant. One thing led to another, and now, alongside other hats, Amelia serves as a visibility expert and digital marketing consultant. In short, she went from using social media for cat videos to using these same tools to establish relationships with humans who have media platforms and need their clients' services. When she's not building relationships at scale and working with powerhouse professionals who are tired of hiding, Amelia enjoys planning real and imagined food tours. Now, I know you're wondering, like I am, food tour. So we're going to have another conversation on the food
Yes,
tour.
yes.
Amelia, welcome to Being Brown at Work Live.
Hey there, Linda. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
I am so fantastically well, especially since we are going to talk about this critical subject. I remember during our discovery call, and what really intrigued me, like I just said at the beginning of this, was what you've termed ecosystem
Mhm.
and how important it is. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to have my audience learn what I learned that time. So let's just delve in, Amelia, because we've got a lot we want to talk about. And I want to make sure that the audience hears these wonderful words of wisdom from you. So, first and foremost, what is an ecosystem of support?
Yeah, sure. So, I just want to like sort of like demystify like that topic. It's the dictionary definition is like a system, like an organization of things together that work together for the benefit of everything. And just think about like an ecosystem, like grass, like outside. You have grass, you have bugs, you have plants, you have soil, and how all of that looks here in the northeastern United States might look a little different from Texas or from
Mm-hmm.
or in rainforest somewhere else, or in a very cold place. You have in all these places you have um, grass, you have dirt, you have soil, you have bugs, but they all are a little different depending on where they are, but they're all working together for the benefit of the organism for all of us, right?
Right, right.
And in our lives, we ideally should have a similar type of groups of support, whether it's our professional ecosystem of support, our personal ecosystem of support, business ecosystem of support. There's just similar ways, there's different ecosystems that really can be activated to support the organism of us.
Ah, love that. Love that. So, if we were to dig into that a little bit more, can you help me maybe comprise it? So for our women, our professional women out there, and they're saying, okay, Amelia, I hear what you're saying. I kind of get it from the analogy that you gave, but can you kind of strip it down a little bit more? What would make up an ecosystem, for instance, for myself as a
Okay.
black woman, professional black woman.
So I will say, well, I'll answer that. And I didn't necessarily like wake up with this idea of like, oh, ecosystems of support. That's what we all need. Um, in Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, she talked about her ecosystems of support.
That's right,
She
she
didn't
did.
necessarily
Yeah.
call it that, right? But she talks about how there were supports. in her early childhood education. Her ecosystem primarily was her mom, who took her out of a horrible classroom situation and put her into a better classroom situation. And now that we're learning more about early childhood events, just how critical that was.
Right.
And then when she went into high school and then college, she had different ones around her who were providing different types of support, whether it was like in the community or at home,
Mm-hmm.
or as she became a mom, her friends, she had various systems that weren't necessarily dependent on each other, but they all worked together in support of her.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that book for so many reasons. But yes, so in our lives we have people who might act as cheerleaders. We have like people who might be our coaches or trainers. We may have spotters. When something gets too heavy, they can, they're there to catch and spot and help and support. We might have people who serve as like scouts, right? Who are scouts who
Mm-hmm.
have their eyes open for opportunities for us,
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and there's also different levels of support too, depending on where we're at. Example, Joy Pittman. She's an HR consultant, but bear with me. She has an example of what level of support do you need if you're
Mm-hmm.
drowning. If you're drowning, this might not be the time to take the lessons at the YMCA. You might not be able to take swimming lesson level of support. You might need a lifeguard level of support. So, what your ecosystem looks like, there's a lot of variables, but I just want to just encourage more of us to just kind of think about like, how am I being supported? And yes, I need to be supported multiple different ways. And
Right.
these people can be activated, they can be created. You might have to purchase their time, like when it comes to support, like domestically. Um, you may have a family, yet sometimes the family might not support you in the way that you need to be supported. And
Yes.
there's, others that you can bring into your home to support you with, whether it's laundry or
Mm-hmm.
just not having to worry about cleaning the house, having that conversation about whose turn it is to do what.
Right.
That can just be a weight off of your shoulders. So, yeah, I definitely don't want to define like what an ecosystem should be. It really
Mm-hmm.
depends on you. It depends on where you are. Again, do you need a lifeguard level of support, or are you okay with swimming lessons at the YMCA?
Right.
What's your capacity to receive? Some of
Yes.
us, our capacity to receive is not that high.
Oh
So
my
there,
gosh.
yeah, so level of
Yes.
support that we might be able to receive may not be that high.
And
Um,
that
mhm,
is that that I could interrupt,
yeah.
and I apologize for that. But as we really just focus in on the professional women that were listening to us right now, what you just said, I think, is so critical because there are times when we don't allow ourselves to get that support. We don't have the capacity to receive it, which can create challenges within our career growth, could it not? I mean, just not recognizing one, I think what you just said, two, what level of support do you need? Is it the lifeguard? Is it the beginning swimmer? Understanding where you are in your career. But then once you have that clarity and the support is there, having the capacity to receive it. I
Mhm.
think that is crucial. Can you talk a little bit more about that with regard to our careers?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of us, for various reasons that are absolutely based in fact and things that have actually happened, we can feel a certain type of way about trusting people, other people enough to support us.
Mm,
We may have reached out for support before, and the different things may have happened, and that may have confirmed other stories that we've had about general things, and that can absolutely shrink our capacity. But something that I invite professionals to think about is, how can you make that support situation safer, safe
ah,
for you and safe for the other person. So don't think that I'm inviting people to just bring all sorts of stuff into their life all willy nilly. I'm
mhm,
not suggesting that.
right.
Anytime you start a relationship with someone else, whether it's a personal relationship, romantic, professional, vendor, it doesn't really matter. There really needs to be like guidelines around
Mm-hmm.
what's expected and what will be accepted. And
Mm-hmm.
when you know those guidelines, know what support should feel like, should be like, um,
Yes.
it can be easier for you to bring in um, that support because if this person doesn't meet these criteria, this is what will happen next, or
Yes.
this is how I'm able to recognize what I need because I have this criteria in mind about what support might be best for me, and
Yes.
so those are just a couple things I invite people to think about. What you
Yeah.
do to make it safe for them, and and likewise, how can you make it safer for you to bring in that person? Something from the professional world that I admire is vendor criteria, right?
Mm-hmm.
For those of us who are in, buying
Yep. And
decisions.
the purchasing.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
we just
Yep.
can't just go and pick stuff because, the person who was selling it to us seemed really nice and friendly. There were there's a criteria that, that you have
Absolutely.
to fill into because you have
Yes.
to explain to another, group why you made that purchasing decision. And same thing with your ecosystem of support, you know, because it's not because it is informal most times.
Yep.
Um, we may make a lot of allowances and let people skip steps and not do steps, but I invite you to have your own sort of criteria in
Yes.
mind so that you're able to explain to yourself in a way why you made this investment and whatnot.
That is so true. Absolutely. And I've talked about this in previous sessions about mentorship, right? I mean, that's part of your ecosystem of support, and you need to have criterion around that.
Yeah.
I mean, what makes a good mentor? Why do you need a mentor? To your point earlier, right? Back to your lifeguard versus beginner swimmer analogy. Do you need a mentor at this point in your career because you're about to step into an executive position for the first time? Or are you looking for a mentor because you're new? This is your first job. You just, new into corporate America. So I think you're so spot on about making sure that people have criterion for who comes in to their ecosystem. There's one thing that as I was researching you and going through all of your information, you make a reference to, I think it's Lavia Jaya, right? Am I
Yeah,
pronouncing
love
that
the
right?
Ajayi. Yes.
Lavia Jaya, yes, where
Uh-huh.
she says no one should do this career thing alone, right? No such thing as an empire of one. Can
Yeah.
you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so she has a post on Medium if you were to search firing myself ending the empire of one, and she was doing a lot of things. She was she was wearing so many hats, and
Mm,
she was traveling with her friends, and she was needing to get meet a deadline, and I think they were traveling like in Kenya, so there was like a time zone difference, and she may or may not have gone a couple days without sleep. I don't know the entire story, but
yes.
pretty much, all of her other responsibilities. She was a digital strategist, speaker, brand ambassador, and long story short, she was just juggling all the balls. And she said that she came to a point where she really needed to fire herself and start to outsource some of her life. And
Mm,
long story short, that whole idea is that empires of one is like not a thing. Whether
not a
you
thing.
whether you are empire of your career or your business or whatnot is really all the same. um you need support. And
Yes, yes.
I've seen that in different roles as well. There was I don't know, I haven't seen it too much lately, but there was this executive leader, and she was just spending like all of this time on a PowerPoint, like all this time trying to figure out a PowerPoint design. And this was like some years ago. um,
Hmm.
and was that the best use of an executive's time? She didn't have officially someone in a role to support her. She
Okay.
wasn't allotted that allowance. And there are other things like Fiverr, Upwork.
Yeah,
So she
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
could have hired support
yeah.
if different things were in place. But long story short, that's yeah sort of what that idea about the empire of one.
The Empire of One, and I often say no man's an island,
Mm,
right? I mean, you
I like
you
that.
cannot do this thing alone. There's no such thing. And recognizing when you need help, recognizing when you need assistance, when you need someone to help bridge a gap, when you need to get that additional knowledge, or when you need someone to bounce things off of. Having an accountability partner. There's all different types of terminologies for this ecosystem of support, right? But like you said earlier, the most critical thing is recognizing that you need it and being open to receive it.
Mhm.
That's so extremely critical to be open to receive it. What I'd like to get into to next, Amelia, because I shared this with you, my audience loves to take home actionable steps. And, we'll be winding down here in the next 10 minutes or so. And I always want to give ample time for them to take their notes, take actionable steps so they can go and implement putting together their ecosystem. So if you were to, sit down with someone, this is new to them, or even if they've tried it before, what 3 to 5 key steps would you give them as they're um, setting out to put together their ecosystem of support for their career advancement?
Sure. So, the first step is sort of doing like a pulse check of your capacity to receive and your feelings about being supported, and your relationships with relationship, right? Because this is like all about relationships.
Ah, oh,
How
I'm sorry to
Go
interrupt.
ahead.
Say
Go ahead.
that every time you gotta say something beautiful. I just have to have it repeated. Your relationship
Relationships
with
with relation, relationships.
relationship with relationships.
Hmm.
Yes,
Because
understanding that. Yes,
how you typically have relationships is how you typically have relationships. Have How have they typically been over your career in life?
yes.
And so before you go out and start making a whole bunch of new ones, just do a pulse check on that.
Hmm.
And things might need to be worked out with someone else that has more expertise than I do. But so that's just one. And so that's so once you start to do that, think about your feelings around that and your capacity to receive, okay,
Yes.
and your deservedness to be happy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, your
Yes.
deservedness to be happy.
Because if I could add a little bit, the capacity to receive, because in this ecosystem of support, people are going to give you feedback, right? They're going to give you input. You need to be able to be able to receive that. And so I'm putting together your nuggets, and your relationship on relationships is about, how do you connect? How do you um, communicate? How do you engage? Oh, this is
Mhm.
so critical. And you were on to the third one, I think. What was the
Yeah.
third one?
So and your deservedness to be happy.
Yeah,
What is
yes.
your feelings around that? But I'm going to give you guys some more stuff because that's kind of that. I feel like that's a little bit of feely and might be fluffy for some. People might say, okay, I want a pen and paper. Like, tell me stuff to do. So the stuff to do is this exercise. I call it cups of tea or cups of coffee. There's different, cups of coffee. You might like yours with a ton of cream and sugar, and it's, little coffee thrown in there. You might like it, straight black. And no, there's nothing wrong with any of the cups of coffee. They're just different cups of coffee or tea.
Mm-hmm.
But make a list of like 4 columns, and think about, what do you love to do, in your life, business, and career. What are things that you love to do? Um, Column one, column two, what do you hate to do? Just absolutely hate it. It zaps all your emotional strength and energy. And what do you not have time to do?
Okay.
What do you, might enjoy doing, but you just really don't have time to do it.
Yeah.
And for what would you like to learn to do? And
Okay.
when you start to, you know, take that consideration over your, various aspects of your life, certain themes will start to arise, and helpers will start to become clear. It's just interesting when you start to prime your brain into like who you're looking for, who you want to see will start to
Mm.
show up. But um, long story short, these people might be a spotter role, somebody to
Yes.
take over when things, in your life, career, whatnot, become too heavy. That could look
Mm-hmm.
like various roles or people. There might be a trainer. Maybe, you need to work with somebody to get better at a skill that, really zaps your energy. Maybe it's like public speaking and presentation. Maybe you need to reach
Yes.
out for a
Yes.
trainer. Maybe it's a cheerleader role, maybe it's a cheerleader role, maybe before you're about to, do something, scary or presentation, it might be useful to reach out to somebody who, can, affirm you or something.
Yes.
Or maybe even hire a coach for this purpose. Oh my goodness. I was just talking to somebody who was saying, executive coaching is something that some people just know to ask for, and they have it, baked into their promotional um, contracts or proposals or packages. They have, that coaching baked in there. Others, don't know to ask for it, but
Yes.
that's an absolute thing. But those are just some things that I hope folks can, start to at least turn around in their brain about like what the support might be able to
Might
look like
look
for them.
like. I love that act. I love that action and that activity because a lot of times, we may know we need help. We just don't know where and we just don't know what type
Hmm.
and specifically what. So that action you took of the four columns, that recommendation, I love that. And see,
Hmm.
somebody says they said they want to turn it into a hashtag. I got Kiana joined us and she was like hashtag relationships with relationships.
Hmm.
That's a hashtag. See, so,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's so important to
Hmm.
understand that. We said that the empire of one is impossible in a career. I often say no man's an island, but it's not easy to establish relationships. It's not an
Yeah.
easy thing. And so, truly understanding who we are and every aspect we bring to the table is important. Amelia, that was excellent, excellent advice. As we start to close, what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, and this is a teaser, everyone, because Amelia's coming back in a couple weeks. On the 26th, she's going to be my guest again because as we were talking before we set this one up, she mentioned assumed leadership, and it's linked to this thing about knowing the support you need and making sure you have everybody that various levels, cheerleaders, mentors, coaches, whatever you need. So, Amelia, tell us a little bit about assumed leadership, the connection. Don't give it all away though, because
Yeah.
we want them to join us on the 26th.
Yeah.
But this is really hot stuff. Everyone, listen to this a little bit. So share with us, Amelia.
So it goes back to Michelle Obama. In her book Becoming, she talked about, I'll just quote it, when she went to Princeton, she went there and she noticed that kids had their bikes on the ground, unlocked. She noticed like some girls left gold hoops on the sink. And she made a comment that their trust in the world seemed infinite. Their trust in the world seemed infinite, their forward progress in it entirely assured. Everything otherwise was designed to accommodate our well-being as students. Speaking of herself when she was in that environment, and a
Yes.
lot of students I was coming to realize had never in their lifetimes known anything different.
Mm.
And so Joy Pittman, again, she brought this term to my radar or labeled what I got from Michelle Obama, assumed leadership. That,
Mm-hmm.
if you were to put, if you have a group of people and you're put, someone who looked like me and you in front of the room of the group of people and somebody who was the opposite of you and me and race and gender,
Yep.
um, there might be a natural inclination to think somebody was the leader and it might not be you and I.
Yes.
And just because of
Mm.
certain assumptions of being supported from like an early age, and maybe even seeing that modeled in their home from an early age, seeing domestic support,
Mm-hmm.
seeing robust childcare situations. Not that
Yes.
any things are negative, but just seeing certain things normalized,
Yes.
from like an early age. All
Yes.
sorts of coaching, you know. At the kitchen table, you might even have somebody, and this is actually from a work experience. At their kitchen table, they actually had support with college essays because one of their relatives, worked at admissions of a university, and
Mm-hmm.
just everyone came and brought their stuff to family Thanksgiving, and that was the time of year everyone got that. So it was just certain types of
Yes.
supports
Yes.
have been normalized. Because these are people who have been groomed since birth to take leadership roles. So because they were, put, almost like as a kid, like they will be a leader, there's just certain things that they don't even think of
Think of.
as,
Yep.
yeah. and it's just for those of us who weren't necessarily raised where things like that were modeled, we just have to be a little extra aware of
Yes.
areas in life where we too deserve to be supported.
Yes, yes. And see, this is going to be a great conversation on the 26th because I always say, and I even said it earlier today where I was speaking at to a group at an organization, who you are personally is who you are professionally. And so if you are not accustomed, if you didn't have some of those um, different experiences that you shared, right, just a few minutes ago, that Michelle mentioned in her book, you could, unfortunately, in your mind, condition yourself to think you're not worthy, to think you shouldn't have that seat at the table, to think that you don't need the support or shouldn't get the support or won't get the support, which means we don't go ask for mentors. There's a study out there that says, 60% of African American women in corporate America don't have mentors, right? Because we don't get that exposure. And some of it is from not having those kitchen conversations at the table, right? Not having the access early on in life. So I don't want to give any more of that
Yeah,
conversation because it's going to be so good on the 26th. And we're going to talk about understanding that as Black and Brown women, what assumed leadership means, understanding it, and then finding our worth and value in spite of it. Right, Amelia? That's what we're going to talk
yeah.
about on the 26th. This has been so awesome, which everybody, I mean, that's why you got to have your ecosystem of support. You
Yeah.
guys know I get so excited about stuff like this. So, thank you so much,
Oh,
Amelia.
thank
This was
you.
awesome in
Yeah.
talking about ecosystems and that necessity of having one, how it can benefit your career journey. And we're going to link that to our conversation on October 26th about assumed leadership. I can't wait to have you back. Thank you for
Awesome.
spending time with me today.
Oh, thank you so much, Linda. This has been fun.
That's awesome, awesome. So, if any of you, struggling with your ecosystem of support, drop it in the comments. I'd love to share with you, to find out what your struggles are. Amelia gave us some points on how you can go about building that. First, identifying where you need support in your career so that you can make sure that you properly select the right people and build that ecosystem. But Kiana says this conversation has me thinking. So it was a critical conversation. So please share your comments. I would love it. If you're catching this on the replay, share your comments there because we definitely follow up and make sure we provide more additional information. So until next time, everyone take good care of yourselves.
Bye.